What is my plan for Hedera in 2025? Even though nothing I say is financial advice, it's pretty simple to me, and that is just continue, for me at least personally, to dollar cost average, hold, and I just wait when it comes to HBAR. Because when I take a look at it, HBAR has had a pretty good, recent rally, right, before that pullback. But now it's just kind of not really doing much, even though we've seen Bitcoin have a pretty good recovery. Also, something like Ethereum, which hypothetically has done pretty good actually as of late. But even besides that, I'm still staying patient because I don't think I've seen an altcoin season during this cycle. And even still, despite that, before that pullback when it comes to HBAR, it had that pretty good initial rally. I thought I was going to have to wait longer for that, right? But then now, because of that, $3 is around a 12x from here. So that actually surprised me in a good way. It actually proved me wrong in a good way, right? So then I find that pretty interesting. However, even besides that, $3, the market cap at that point would be around 127 billion considering current circulating supply. Now, even though BNB reached a new all-time high during this cycle, which is actually very impressive even right now, but besides that, I just want to take a look at the example of BNB back in 2021 more specifically, because back in 2021, BNB reached a market cap, again, even back then, of over 100 billion. And this just maybe doesn't seem like that unrealistic to me. Now, sometimes people like to say, but okay, now there's more competitors when it comes to, just the space overall. Totally aware that there is more projects, in my opinion, arguably, when compared to before. But then at the same time, when it comes to Hedera, it is kind of not really having, I think, any direct competitor in a fundamental sense. Let me explain what I mean by this, because when it comes to Hedera Hashgraph, it actually does not use traditional blockchain technology. So then, that's, I think, is kind of the big difference right there. Now, granted, at the, grand scheme of things, right? Of course, a lot of my friends out there who may not care about this, they're probably going to think okay, what's the big difference between, let's say, like VeChain or something like Hedera or something like, Algorand when compared to Hedera, right? But then again, when I take a look at Hedera Hashgraph, doesn't use traditional blockchain technology. Instead, it uses something called a directed acyclic graph, which actually, supposedly, right, has, in some cases, improved data storage, amazing scalability, and also on top of that, we take a look at, in some cases, reduced energy consumption. For example, allegedly, Hedera per transaction on average consumes less energy than something like Avalanche, something like Ethereum, and many others. So that I find pretty cool and interesting. And not to mention, Hedera's native services can supposedly reliably scale up to 10,000 transactions per second and even beyond. So that's very impressive. Also, not to mention, Hedera's governing council includes something like Google, includes something like Dell Technologies, includes something like even Mondelez, right? Mondelez, we take a look at one of their brands, it is Oreo, and Oreo is very famous. So then, in the grand scheme of things, these type of, I would say, kind of things about Hedera, or should I say aspects of it, maybe in a retail side of things, like a lot of my friends probably don't care about it too much, but then when it comes to like enterprise adoption, when it comes to having that validity, I think it does kind of matter in the grand scheme of things, but this is just my perspective. So yes, again, there is more competitors, but then at the same time, a lot of these new competitors, I feel like, are meme coins, right? And, sure, some of these meme coins do good, and I still do believe in meme coins, right? Some of them. But then at the same time, I haven't found a project that directly kind of matches the fundamentals of something like Hedera, because again, just because a lot of these projects do use traditional blockchain technology, whereas Hedera Hashgraph, again, hypothetically does not. Whenever that altcoin season hypothetically even wants to start during this cycle, be it maybe October, November, December, January, February, or March of, let's say, 2026, who knows? That's beyond my control. So I'm going to stay patient, and that's about it. That's my plan, just staying patient, really, because I treat it like a waiting game. It's not something that I want to see happen in, 1 or 2 weeks and then I leave. No, that's not what I am in here for. I'm in here for the long term. And I'm not telling you to do anything. But again, it's just very simple for me. Dollar cost averaging, holding, and just waiting. And that's the plan I'm going to do. And that's what I've been doing actually since the beginning. I'm going to stick with that because, to me, again, I'm not treating it like a sprint. I'm treating it like a marathon. For me to be doing a marathon, right? I have to feel like, what happens along the way, I just have to keep a steady pace. So if there is a pullback and all this type of stuff, I just have to still stay patient. This is just the way to take a look at it. Now, granted, sometimes people like to say, but why would you care? $3 is around a 12x from here. Now, my response is this. Even in and of itself, right, I don't even think it's that bad, but besides that, if I take a look at Bitcoin and Ethereum, just because they have done so well, right? If Ethereum went to 10 grand, that's less than a 3x from here, which again is a testament to how well it did, but I'm just saying, when it comes to Bitcoin, if it went to 300 grand, that's less than a 3x from here. And again, that's a testament as well as to just how well it did, historically speaking. But then at the same time, HBAR, even at the price of, let's say, like, $2, right? That's already well above a 3x from here. So this is just my perspective. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to do that though, but then just the kind of thought of maybe hypothetically less than a 2x, it doesn't necessarily excite me that much, but it's besides the point. When I take a look at Hedera as well, I kind of like something like this for, let's say, in the use case of AI, because if I take a look at, the AI market, it is predicted to reach nearly $2 trillion by 2030, according to Grandview Research. Now again, theoretically, if I was like, a developer of an AI project, let's say, there's many places to choose from, right? But then at the same time, just because, again, Hedera Hashgraph, it doesn't use traditional blockchain technology, who knows, maybe, when it comes to these AI projects, it could hypothetically do pretty okay. But again, only time will tell. Now, sometimes you like to tell me, okay, but Hedera doesn't have the best adoption. Sometimes they like to say this to me. I'm totally aware that, there's way more popular projects out there that have better adoption, but from what I see, usually right now, kind of the main narrative isn't necessarily tied to the adoption of a project, right? Because if that was the case, I think many of the top 100 projects that I see right now wouldn't necessarily be up there if it was just solely tied to the adoption. I think more so right now it's the narrative. It's kind of like the cool factor, the unique features of a project. And I think Hedera Hashgraph, again, it kind of ticks that box to me when it comes to not using traditional blockchain technology and just Hedera overall. I just like the vibe. This is just personally in my perspective though, which is why I'm staying patient. Now, I do want to stay patient with the projects that I'm a fan of, but, that's pretty much about it. And granted, around the 12x, again, going to the price of $3 is not going to be the best thing of all time, and how can it? It's only, again, around the 12x from here. It's not going to be hypothetically the best thing of all time, but I don't mind it again nonetheless, because I'm not looking for a microcap, but I'm not looking for, something that has too massive a market cap either. So I kind of like this, it's a good balance in between for me. Again, I'm not tying to anything, but again, my plan for 2025 and my plan moving forward in general when it comes to HBAR, just staying patient, dollar cost averaging, holding, and then waiting. That's pretty much about it, but I'm not telling you to do anything. This is just personally what I'm doing. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's Willie the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.